As far as the latest statistics are concerned, officially what we've been saying is that 982 people have lost their lives, but the number could be much, much more because there are so many areas where we haven't gone as yet to ascertain the amount of damage caused, whether it be infrastructure or people. 1,456 people have been injured, 455,000 houses have been partially destroyed, around 26,000 houses have been completely destroyed, 35 million people have been affected by this calamity this year as far as the estimates go. And these are estimates, you know, this is not the final number. The final number is going to come in around 2 weeks time, when the water would have passed all through Pakistan and this season of monsoon would have ended. But as we speak, there are different rivers that are more or less on very high levels, whether it be River Kabul, whether it be River Indus, and there are so many calamities that are occurring as we speak. Flood has entered Nowshera, and we have seen also what the devastation that has been caused. The videos are online everywhere. People are posting on what has happened across the country. In the north, in Balochistan, the province that we couldn't think could be affected to that extent has now been affected this year due to unprecedented rains that are that have come this year, that have exceeded all expectations of what could have come to Pakistan as far as the monsoon is concerned this year. Nevertheless, the government is working, the armed forces are working diligently to help those who have been affected by this calamity. There are two very important numbers that I'd like to tell our viewers right now. 9999 is the text number that you need to text to with the message fund, and that way you'll be able to donate 10 rupees for the flood affectees. And as far as the Army Flood Relief Helpline is concerned, the number is UAN 1135 for the rest of the country and UAN 1125 for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Call and donate whatever you can, in whatever capacity you can help. I think this is the time when Pakistan needs to come as one, when the people, all political parties, all members of the society need to be on one page so as to take Pakistan out of this current crisis that it is engulfed in. Economy aside, this is also going to put a huge dent on the current economic situation of Pakistan. So that is the main purpose of what we need to do. The main thing that needs to come in our minds is we need to move forward as one to help and mitigate the sufferings of the people, and to take measures that could prevent such happenings from occurring in the future. We've been joined by three important guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. On my very right is Dr. Asif Javed. He's an environmental scientist. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Then we've been joined by Waqar Shirazi. He's a disaster response expert. Waqar, it's a pleasure to have you, and it's the first time that we're meeting, so of course we have lots to discuss with you. And Momi Salim, who's been a regular on my other shows as well. She's a renowned environmentalist. Momi, thank you very much to have given us the time and to have come all the way to the studios. Let's begin with you, Dr. Asif Javed. Dr. Asif Javed, when you look at the current situation in the country, I know other countries have been affected as well, but Pakistan this year, the rains are unprecedented, whether it be Balochistan or Sindh. Was the amount of rain that we saw expected?
Thank you very much. You use the two words, unprecedented and then natural calamity. First of all, I would not agree to that. This is not a natural calamity. This is actually we have done with ourselves. This is basically the outcome of our ugly development in the West, in the US, in the UK. We have more emissions, we have more intense rainfall, and more intense rainfall in shorter period of time. So we have these type of floods.
All right.
The reason we know very clear. Number one, unplanned urbanization, encroachment on the floodplain, and then climate change. And this is not new thing. You know, flood comes every year, but intensity varies from region to region. This year, scientists long ago predicted these type of consequences as a result of climate change. And we have been speaking throughout the years that Pakistan has been consistently ranked among the top 10 vulnerable countries that is likely to be affected by the effect of climate change in the form of these disasters. So I would call it as a nature's wake-up call. I don't know why we don't wake up, because the figure you are quoting is very disturbing, very alarming for us.
And this is just a figure, you know, the actual numbers are going to come in a few days or weeks time.
Because there is a lot of missing data in that. They are far-flung areas, because my in-laws belongs to Lucky Marwat, so there are lot of acres of agricultural lands have been eroded. So there is loss in incalculable loss, that is in millions. So this is a high time for us to help, first of all, and then we need to think, we need to formulate some policies. This is not a time to make formulate policies or discussion or something like that. We are
This is
not
time for action. I
this is
think
time for practical action. Yes, truly. Our policies should be clearly focused on adaptation side, not on the medication side. What we have done so far on adaptation, how many dams we have right now? We have just Bela and Mangla, and so many years. We are focusing on road networks, which is also important, no doubt, but that should be given top priority. Now everybody is discussing about floods. When this flood have gone, so nobody will discuss floods and all those things. We'll start discussing the political situation and all those things in the country.
I think a huge responsibility is also on the media, which needs to prioritize what are the important factors that need to be discussed time and again, and the people in Pakistan need to be apprised of it.
The important thing is, you will realize who is more affected. Poorest of the poor is more affected. Of course, rich people, they're sitting in their houses, they're enjoying the rainfall of monsoon. But look at those people who are poor, who don't have resources. Similarly, all those countries which don't have technological resources and financial resources to cope with these type of extreme events. Flood is a natural process. It will come every year, but intensity varies. But certainly what the climate change did is, because it intensified the natural processes, which results in many devastation as we see in that.
In all of this devastation, there are a lot of repercussions, Waqar Shirazi, whether it be in the form of food insecurity, whether it be in the form of disease, whether it be in the form of loss of infrastructure, loss of
when it comes to natural calamities, and of course we said exacerbated by climate change, and of course the need for us to be have more capacity building and to be more prepared
for such calamities to happen. In this current stage that we are in, when we are seeing the devastation all across Pakistan, and this devastation we are going to foresee as well in the days and the weeks to come, what kind of measures need to be taken in the short term to alleviate the crisis that the people are in?
Actually, there are two set of policies. One is for developed nation and one is for underdeveloped nation like Pakistan. In terms of
developing nation,
yes, for Pakistan, like for example, there should be a clear difference of policies. Like for example, for West, there should be more focus should be given on the mitigation side, introduction of greenhouse gases, so to minimize the effect. But on the other hand, for developing world like Pakistan, the policy should be focused on adaptation side. As Momi mentioned, there's no need to develop a large reservoir. Small dams can also work. I know one Canadian consultant who identified like 100 feasible sites across the Indus Plain for small dams, so that can store water in the flood condition. All this water will ultimately go to the Arabian Sea without
exactly, and it's lost.
It's lost. Indeed. So we are unlucky nation because 11 months or so we are crying for water. We don't have water. As Momi mentioned, groundwater is depleting, and United Nations target is like 2035. There will be no groundwater usage at all. So in that sense, but in 1 month in Pakistan, we are crying just because of excess of water. You mentioned everywhere there is a water. So this shows how efficient we are in making the policies and all those things. So obviously, this is not only the responsibility of Pakistani nation, this is the responsibility of developed nation as well, because we are facing these consequences as a result of their ugly development. So they need to be held responsible. They should help us in this time, and we need to improve our bilateral relationship with India, with Bangladesh, and all the South Asian countries, because we are in the same region. 1.3 billion people are living in this. You may recall that in the last few days, India and Bangladesh, they were underwater. Now Pakistan is underwater. So if we collectively raise our voices with the West, so I'm sure our voices will be properly heard and will be responded by the West. Because why I'm stressing on this thing, because this country is developing. We don't have that much resources. So we need help, and this is their ethical and moral responsibility to help this part of the world in this extreme crisis.
All right.
But it does not mean we don't have any responsibility. The huge responsibility lies on our government, our non-government organization, our public, our rich people, those people who can afford, who can help other people in this time of crisis. As Shirazi mentioned that we will face a food crisis after that. You will see tomato will be out from the market after
We've
the
already
factory.
seen, I mean, go to
Yes.
the market and ask for the prices of the normal commodity, especially the vegetables. They have doubled.
Because, lot of livestock have been drawn, lot of the fields have been eroded, and you will see the millions of environmental refugees in the coming days. Who will be a burden on this? Who will be our responsibility out of this?
All right. Bakash Shirazi, whose responsibility is it? Is it our responsibility as a nation, as people? Is it the government's responsibility? Is it the responsibility of the policymakers? Is it the responsibility?
Because I've discussed, I talked to a lot of ambassadors, and they say be prepared.
Our strategy as far as floods or disasters are concerned for the next 10 to 20 years. We already prepare in case this happens. How will we go forward with it? Can countries like ours also make such plans?
There are two things. First is the rescue. We are very good in rescue and rehabilitation. Our armed forces are very good. But long-term management and long-term planning, we are lacking that. For example, why we allow the buildings on the floodplain areas. I was watching the television.
Exactly, like so many hotels were lost to floods because of this, because they were at the wrong place.
Why the government allow buildings or hotels in the floodplains, which clearly is at risk of flooding. There should be clearly floodplain regulation in the Pakistan. So in here we lack the policies in that, because what is the technical phenomena? There is a phenomenon that is called lag time. Lag time is basically the difference between the rainfall event and the flood water. So with more urbanization, the lag time decreases, and obviously when the buildings occupy the places in the floodplain where water used to go, so obviously water will come more forward. Water does not find a space in that. So
water finds its own space. That is why we need to create that space for it.
So we need to have a proper floodplain regulation rather than allow. So there's a lack of policies, and basically, in case of flood, we take 100 years of record, and based on that 100-year record, we said this is the floodplain area where water can come within once in 100 years. So planning should be of 100 years, and we are not even planning for 20 or 30 years.
I think we should start planning for the next 10 years, and then we can see about the next 30 or 40 years.
And the most important thing is, we need to change our habits. There is an equation, very common equation: old technology plus old habit, we have predictable consequences. But we have, with new technology, with old habits, we have highly unprecedented consequences. This is what we are actually observing nowadays, because we have massive floods and we say we are not prepared for that. This is unprecedented. This is not basically unprecedented, because with new technology we need to change our habits. Our consumption patterns are increased, population has increased, so obviously we need to change our habits.
But can we determine, for example, with the climate change, can we determine, for example, this year we have unprecedented rains in Balochistan?
Yes,
can we predict whether next year or in 2 years we're going to have 600% more rains or not? Now, is that predictable?
There is a prediction, the prediction has been, there's a lot of improvement in predictions. Global circulation models are being used, and they are, like 50% accurate in predicting. As I mentioned earlier, scientists long ago predicted these type of consequences for this region and for the rest of the world. Let me quote an example of US. There is a South Atlantic Ocean, where scientists long ago predicted that there will be no hurricanes in that ocean, because for hurricane to form, it needs the warm water. But with global warming, water gets warm, and we have, in 2005 I think so, they have a hurricane in that, and there have been a lot of books have been written on that. So with the passage of time, things have been changed. Our calculations have been improved with the passage of time, so we can now predict 50%, accuracy is 50% in case of weather. 2-3 days weather forecast is more accurate than the 10 days. Similarly, in case of 2 years, flood forecast is more accurate as compared to 10 years. So these things go on. So we have some kind of idea. So we can plan something on the maximum, not on minimum. Like for example, if we can plan floodplain regulations, we should take 100 years data, and we should plan, and we should restrict to that time. We should not allow any building except for ecotourism, which involves the planting of trees, which can absorb more water in the floodplains, that can help something. So this is largely missing in Pakistan. people love to have houses on the bank of the river. People love to have restaurants.
But they don't
on
understand the repercussions, the consequences that it could have in case of floods, such as what we've seen this year. Shirazi sir, what should be our strategy, in the present and in the future? We've talked about long-term planning. We've talked about 10-year, 20 years, 100-year plans. But let's, limit ourselves to